a lot of pressing issues, and I want to just throw out there already. As of today, we're recording on Wednesday afternoon here in California, just a little before 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And the Milwaukee Bucks, who had a tip-off at 1 o'clock, have decided that they are going to boycott today's playoff game because of the shooting that happened a few days ago to Jacob Blake in Wisconsin.
Now let's pause for a second. Now I'm going to be honest. I've been on vacation, and I heard about it. I don't know any of the circumstances. I don't know what happened at all other than he got shot and that the protests basically last night where people I watched those people get shot. I did. I watched all those. Oh shit, my fucking God damn it, dude.
Again.
God damn it.
Wow.
This fucking, you know what it is?
I'm going to take the blame for this one because I have all your gear.
Yeah. It's literally like this cheap fucking China thing that just does not work well. Like the quality coming out of China is not with it right now because of coronavirus.
They're just like, we don't give a shit what we send over there. Just send it over there. Get them what they want.
Explain to me what it is. I really have no idea like what happened.
Well, once again, you being anti-social media has stopped you from seeing some pretty gruesome stuff. And it's a video. The guy, from what I heard, the guy broke up a fight between two women. The cops show up and he's walking away. He's like trying to get in his car, and the cops are like telling him to stop. He doesn't listen. He gets in his car. He opens the door to his car, and one of the cops is like maybe half a foot away, like literally, like point blank range, shoots him 7 times in the back. And it's all on video, and it immediately went viral on Twitter and the like. Well, it went viral in the places that you could show a video like that. You know, like I feel like that's a video Facebook would pull down, and you can't really put that up on YouTube either. So that happened, and then I didn't hear about the protest, but I did hear an article about like some 17-year-old kid came from Illinois with an AK-47 and shot people, just looking to shoot people, and the cops didn't realize that, so they were like asking him questions, and they thought he was there to like, you know, be on their side. Ended up getting arrested this morning, I think, when he went back to Illinois. Got out of Wisconsin, went back to Illinois. And I think that has to do with the protest that's going on in Wisconsin as well. So it's not good. Not good at all. And it was actually something I kind of want to bring up with you. Like, I feel like racial tensions are at an all-time high right now. And not to sound selfish, but where the fuck does that put you and me if the shit hits the fan? You know what I mean? Like now I gotta watch my fucking ass because I'm white passing, quote unquote. You know, my kid definitely. You know, so like I ain't trying to get shot over something that had nothing to do with me. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's a good thing it's Corona time, right? Because really nothing to do.
I feel like more people are getting shot now because of the Rona than before.
Maybe that's true. I don't know.
People are pissed off, man. There's a video out there of some dude like getting into a fight with Target employees over G.I. Joes.
Well, people are mad because they've been cooped up and, you know, all that other stuff.
Right.
Excuse the tape sounding right now because I have to like literally tape my stand for it to work. So, yeah, sorry. But I was listening to this podcast about Rome and the Roman Republic and all this stuff. And a lot of what is going on right now is very similar to stuff that was going on when the Roman Republic fell into the empire. And I know people like to say that, like, oh, Trump's Hitler, you know, like people really like to, it's very easy to draw these comparisons because there's not that much history, I feel like, Roman history out there. You only have just limited amount, so it's like really broad brushstrokes.
Right.
You know, part of the reason why the fucking Roman Republic fell is because they didn't have a police force, which I actually didn't even know until this podcast. basically they just didn't have one. It just wasn't a part because armies weren't allowed into Rome, so neither was the police, and just things. That's literally gangs like mafia. God, gang warfare like broke out all the time, but it was like civil unrest, the protests like this, people dying. I don't really look at what the protesters are doing as necessarily bad because historically, it's kind of. I don't know. It's kind of how things are handled.
I don't know. I just get the feeling that the American experiment is coming to an end. Because this country is so much different than the rest of the world, like the legislations, the way things are dealt with, something like this, there's a reason why it is hampered this country. I think, yeah, man. I think that we were not prepared for this pandemic because of our freedom, because of the freedom that we have here. And that's the reason why we haven't been able to nip it in the bud or contain it the way the rest of the world has, because they don't have the same freedoms that we do. They don't have that same.
But is it really that bad?
Idea of freedom. Absolutely, man. I absolutely think so. The economy is taking a fucking shit.
People would it have if we didn't do anything?
If we just left things the way they were?
We never shut down once.
Not
one single time.
I think so, because even more people would be dead. You'd have way more dead people. You'd have way more sick people. The hospitals are already having issues. They're going to be even more overrun with sick people.
And then you're just going to have people dying from other things as opposed to corona.
Exactly. Just it'll be a combination of things. I mean, who knows what the death count would be had they not shut down the country at all and just said, hey, fuck it, you're at your own risk. Something happens. Because you also got to think of, well, how many people would stay at home? They would quarantine themselves and be like, hey, you know what? I'm not going out.
I know, but don't you think that would be better? Potentially? Like, you kind of went down the path that I wasn't even thinking about when you brought that up, and it's like, okay, let's say you're right. Let's say literally, like, it would have spread like wildfire, right? I'm not trying to, I hate that I have to fucking say this, but we live in today where you have to fucking super clarify everything. I'm not saying I wanted no shutdown or something. We're just talking. But let's just say that's what happened, right? And people are dropping 10,000, 20,000 a day, 30,000 a day, and you're like, oh, fuck, I'm not going outside. Don't you think more people would have taken that more serious? To like, I'm not going outside. And if I have to, you stay the fuck away, because it might as well be the plague. And now not enough people have died, so it's kind of like the quote-unquote worst thing that's happened is the economy, as opposed to like what's happened to humans in terms that they're dying because of the virus.
I mean, maybe. But I still think that there are still people out there who aren't taking this serious at all, who think it's just a regular cold. And I understand part of that because of so much misinformation that's been doled out since jump. A lot of it just being because people didn't know what they were dealing with, one. And then two, another, like, lying to the public so that they didn't get paranoid and go crazy.
Which I actually would put as number one. This shit ain't easy. This is just what people are doing in the background we never see anyway. Like, it's not like scientists make a vaccine on it. We're going to cure the whole fucking thing in one day. Right. It's like, them experimenting all over the world. Like, this is just where our actual capacity is at as a human race. And it's actually kind of cool when you think about it, because I don't know if what Trump, signed off on, that blood plasma shit, really is going to lead to anything, or that's just fucking him just jerking off in front of everybody and everyone thinks they're okay. But it's cool that we could be able to do that in 4 months, 5 months. It probably could have been even better if we never cut the funding in the first place, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, it's not the treatments. It's not coming up with the treatments. It's the testing them on human patients. That's the problem. Like, you have to test them on. It's the reason why the fastest vaccine to come out still took 4 years. It's.
I'll
be right now. I'm not taking a fucking vaccine until until fucking millions of people.
Like, you're not gonna grow a third fucking foot.
Exactly. 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 Or, maybe it makes your dick fall off, but your balls get
But what
bigger.
if it gets bigger? What if your dick gets bigger? That's the only side effect. It doesn't even cure coronavirus. It just makes your dick bigger. It's like Viagra.
Bro,
like coronavirus makes, and then humans just have 12-foot dicks now because.
And then all these dudes would be like doing like Randy on fucking South Park, like pushing their dick around on a wheelbarrow because they can't carry that shit.
If you knew the vaccine had a dick enlargement side effect, would you, regardless if it was going to cure the virus or not, but you knew it had a confirmed side effect of making your dick bigger, is that something that you would consider? Free of charge, by the way, from the American government.
I mean, I need variables here, bro. Is my marriage not doing well? Once you get married, your dick size just fucking doesn't matter anymore. So I'm just saying, like, am I gonna be like freshly single again? And maybe I need that, this ginormous hog now.
Maybe you just want to explore new things. Maybe you want to be able to sit in a chair and fuck someone across the room. Like that's.
Yeah. So we're talking length and not girth?
I don't know. I'm just saying. I have no idea.
Is my dick going to be long enough that I could suck my own dick? You know what I mean? Like, is that...
The possibilities are endless. I'm just saying.
Can I bend it down and tickle my butthole with it? You
can do whatever you want. It's your dick.
So many questions.
That's what's so American about it.
Where I'm at right now, probably not. No, don't need it. Don't need it. But since we're on fucking Rona, your ex-boyfriend Joe Rogan brought up something with a comedian, and he talked about like what if for those of you who don't know, Daniel broke up with Joe Rogan.
I did. It wasn't a public breakup because I'm not on social media.
It almost brought him back to Twitter, but he still stopped himself. He brought up the like an idea that I thought was kind of interesting. Like, instead of focusing, and he didn't, and I'm putting words in his mouth now. This is my idea, but instead of focusing on a vaccine and trying to get this vaccine out quick, why not spend that money on cheaper tests that have a faster turnaround, so that you could, in theory, run a public event where you test people before they go inside, and if you get results back in like 3 to 5 minutes, you could be like, okay, well, you can't come inside, obviously, you got to turn around and go home, and or not, you're good to go. And it's a semblance of the life that we had before this whole thing happened. You know what I mean? I actually prefer that to a vaccine, to be honest with you, because I think it's something that's realistic, that could be realistically made in a shorter amount of time. And it's just, you're allowing, and you could privatize it, you could make money. Now private businesses, if they want to spend the money to do these tests, it's on them, and we're good to go. And that's the cost of running business. Obviously that's going to raise the prices on, nightclub entrance fees and whatnot, but I don't know. I've been saying this for a few months now. The biggest issue is that they didn't make testing mandatory. They weren't going around and I know other countries weren't doing that either, but people weren't going out and getting tested. So shit was spreading like wildfire. There was no containment of it because we didn't know who had it, especially when you find out that a lot of people are asymptomatic. Yeah. So had they focused on testing as many people as possible from jump, I think we might be in a different place, because that's what every other country in the fucking world that has this contained has done. You know what I mean?
Well, this is the weird fucking thing about it that really, really conflicts me about the entire process. Is we're more so than ever before, from my recollection, are we like micro-analyzing every single case and piece about this virus. Whereas in our normal life, and this is not an argument, but it's a fact. It's a fact. In our normal life, drunk driving statistics, suicide statistics, heart attack, most of those don't affect us unless we've, been like privy to a family member or something who's lost their lives to suicide or like X, Y, and Z, right? Like you might care about that statistic more, but you don't care about drunk driving because you don't know anyone. You know what I mean? Like, but those numbers are way higher than coronavirus is right now, quote unquote, in this, like on a normal basis every year. I'm just saying, or like gun violence, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I could be wrong on one or two of these, but that's my overall point. So we're like, but we're scrutinizing like every single little detail. So like in Korea right now, movie theaters were opening up and people were starting to go and everything. But I read an article that there's a resurgence, and like Seoul and all these big cities in Korea are on the verge of re-shutting down again. And when I read how many, it was like 10 people or something like that. Let's just say 100. Let's just say 100. But 100 in a city of 10 plus million, yes, it's the start of something, and yes, that's being really strict on it, and yes, that's really nipping it in the bud. But at the same time, how many times are you going to be able to do this and not really destroy things in the economy? Like, there's going to be a point where people are just going to have to just fucking say it is what it is. We're just going to have to go about going back to how it was.
Okay, but this is me never taking an economy class and not understanding how the economy works. But if everyone is shut down, how the fuck is the economy getting damaged?
Well, people are still collecting.
And that's what needs to get worked on. If there's a collective shutdown, the people who still need to make their fucking profit.
But how do you justify? But how do you justify that if you're a
because your profit margin isn't worth fucking lives.
No. But if you are a landowner, not a landowner, like a landlord, and you're a building manager or something, you own the whole building, you're just supposed to let these people live there for free. What if they fuck up the plumbing or something or whatever, and you know, as a part of the agreement, you're responsible for that, but it's during months that, like, do you tax them? You know, when it's over, do you say, okay, now you owe me 12 months of fucking back pay doable tomorrow, like student loans?
I mean, you could.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's
like this might sound fucked up, but I don't like feel bad for landlords because that business model should have never existed in the first place. That renting homes to people turned into this big business where it's not regulated.
I'm talking about apartments and stuff because we live in the city. No,
I'm talking
houses.
Well, I'm talking apartments too. Like, if you're not lucky enough to be in a rent controlled building, which just means you live in an old building, you know, they'd fucking rake you over the coals like they're doing in every other major city. So it's this weird. It's this weird business that never should have been a business, just like healthcare should never have been a business.
But how do you fucking control where someone lives then? You have to be able to manage that, don't you? Don't you think?
Well, you can manage it, but the problem here is, I'm talking out my ass right now, but I need to see your books. You know what I'm saying? Like how I'm not one who believes that a loss of profit is a loss. You see what I'm saying? Like, a loss is you have $1 million, you get no more money coming in, and you have to take money out of that $1 million. That's a loss. But if you went from making 20% on your million every year and then you got knocked down to 10, that to me is not that big a deal. You're still making money. You're just not making as much money. And that's the problem. And it goes back to what I said, like, this might be the end of the American experiment because of how the markets are run here. Very different than the rest of the world. Shit like that matters. Where in other countries, they're like, you know what? We're going to fucking put a moratorium on rent for a few months until this shit gets figured out. And there was no, like, big uproar about it because people are like, okay, well, I'm still good. I'm fine. It's not about business. It's not about profit.
Okay, let me ask you this then, because maybe it'll clarify a few things for me. When do you project this to be over with? And don't say I don't know. Just give an answer, even if it's like a really rough, like, obviously it's going to change, and I'm not going to hold you accountable for it. But like right now, based on,
we're gonna know what this thing is and how it operates by March. So what, we're end of August right now. What's that?
So during its first year, you're gonna
6 months. I think by year, because now we started in the spring. We're almost done with summer. We're going to be hitting winter soon. And once winter comes around, we're going to see really what kind of damage the virus does. Because, you know, all the studies that have been going on so far that, you know, it's not,
that's what they're all indicating.
Yeah, the whole sunlight killing the virus and whatnot. Well, when it gets a little overcast, you don't have direct sunlight.
Thank God for global warming, though, right? Because that fucking, because it's summertime now. Summer just started here in Los Angeles.
Right. Well, it's not gonna hit us as hard. If there's a resurgence in the winter, it's not gonna hit us the same way it hits everybody else, obviously, because there's sunshine here almost 365. But the places like Seattle, or New York City,
just even up north in San Francisco.
Yeah,
even San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see
So but when do you think it's going to be
know.
done? Like, when do you think we're going to resume back to normal? That was the original question.
I'm guessing no sooner than next March. A whole calendar year.
See, so that's the difference between you and I. I don't see it resembling any sort of normal until at least like 2022 now, 2023, maybe.
So you think it's going to be a year and a half, at the very least?
At the very least, and I think even longer. I genuinely think by the end of whoever the president, like the end of the next presidency, like that's when it'll be. I really do.
But that's me not saying that life is going to go back 100%.
No, of course. No, I just meant where saying, like you can like literally just go to like, hey, Metallica's coming into town. Sweet, let's get tickets, Not like have to I need to take a test. I need to like do this, and this.
Well, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think that this is a virus, and it's a virus, and it's a virus that's like a common cold. And no one has ever cured the common cold.
So then you have to. So that's but we don't. People die, but the people who die from the cold are. I mean, they're usually young, very young kids, or very old adults, or some people with weak immune systems. Whether that's because of X, Y, or Z, literally HIV type stuff. Like that's how they die, right? They die.
Okay, but what about like young, healthy college athletes in the Midwest right now that tested positive, and now they have like myocardia, whatever. They're having heart problems because of the coronavirus. Like that's the problem. Is it's not like across this virus is so fucking tricky that one fat fuck that lives in an apartment underneath you who's completely unhealthy might get it and nothing, and then on the other hand you have your fucking CrossFitter, super like 3% body fat, eats the best diet ever with like 19-pack abs, might have a heart condition because he got it. Like it's.
I know this is a stretch, what I'm about to say, but I think you can extrapolate enough to see my point. You have to. The way I'm looking at the virus right now, and this is why I brought up what I said earlier. Like you could say the same thing about humans and serial killers. Like, yes, you're gonna see these case studies where you're like, fuck, humans they have really high capabilities of doing really fucked up shit. Like you don't even need to look at serial killers. You can look at, historical figures, X, Y, and Z, all the things that they did, all the atrocities they committed, blah, blah, blah. But is every single human being Hitler? No. But it's possible, right? And it's enough to where you can kind of get a spectrum of things. But is that enough to worry that every single person's going to be a Richard Dahmer or a fucking, a Ted Bundy? And that's kind of like the virus. It's like, yes, the cold is bad, but you can't. I never worry about the cold. I worry about getting pneumonia or you know what I mean? But the cold is and maybe I'm just different, but I don't worry about getting the cold at all. I do worry about wearing, Corona. So it sounds like I'm super fucking anti, vaxxer, fucking no mask, whatever. But it is these are the things that I think about, and I can't pretend like they don't exist.
Well, I see the analogy you're making, but the problem is this is a silent killer. Serial killers, I think people can kind of start picking up that, hey, there's something wrong with this guy. Even if they don't become a serial killer, you can kind of see this person, is off, and maybe there's a way to intervene. You don't see this virus. I think that's the scariest part, is you don't see the virus. You can't see someone on the street and say that person's got the virus. You can't avoid it. The only way you can avoid it is locking yourself up in the house. You know what I mean? I feel like you got a fighting chance with a serial killer. You got a fighting chance with somebody pulling a gun out at a public event. You got a fighting chance with a speeding car plowing down. But I think that's That's why people
but
are
that's
so
why I
scared of
go
it.
to the numbers, though. The numbers, to me, they don't feel that high.
If 3,000 people a day died for 365 days, that's 1,095,000 people.
Which is, 1% of the population.
It's less than 1% of the population.
Right. So, I mean, it's like, how long do you let that go on? Because you let drunk driving go on, and I'm not saying it's 3,000 deaths per day, but it's not zero, Is there a threshold where it's like, okay, if we get the deaths below, and I guess maybe this is what I'm trying to get at, like, okay, if we get if it's less than 1,000 a day, we're okay. It's considered eradicated or something. I don't know. Or does it have to be a complete zero? Is this going to have to be a zero for?
Well, I don't think anybody is expecting it to be a complete zero. I think, like I said, the problem is the virus keeps mutating, and we still haven't seen a second wave of infections. Whatever. Whatever I was talking about, who cares? I think we've talked too much about fucking Rona. We've talked about, I mean, what's your take on the fucking NBA players boycotting? You didn't really get into that. We kind of
got super sidetracked, of course, like always.
Got super sidetracked.
Well, whatever. I know that's my response to a lot of things, but if they want to do that, that's cool. They can do that. As a spectator, I think I'd be kind of annoyed because we don't have basketball or any sport, like we haven't had it in months. Like everything's off, right? And I think some people genuinely just want to watch games right now. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But at the same time, because of the political climate, because it's an election year, because of everything that's going on, like, it kind of makes sense. So for me, as long as it's coming from a genuine spot, all right, whatever. Well, but if they're trying to do it for like the gram or some shit and for publicity, because I genuinely do feel like that's happening in some cases, not necessarily with the NBA, but
yeah.
And I'm not on social media, so I can't. I'm just making a huge assumption. But even just from watching the fucking the national conventions on both sides, like it's Panderville right now. Like everyone's pandering to everybody.
Absolutely. So what do you think about the reports that the NBA ratings are like not doing well at all, and a lot of people are?
It could be because of that.
Right.
Didn't the NFL go down too? After Kaepernick?
The irony here is that both of these things happen during an election year where ratings normally dip anyways. I think the difference here, though, is because so many people are home because of the pandemic, there's even more eyes focused on stuff where they have more reason to get pissed off because they got nothing better to do, I guess.
But there's so many more things to watch right now, too. Disney Plus, like streaming is way more, is way larger than it was even when Kaepernick started kneeling.
Right. But
and it's like
stuff isn't popping out though. Like it's not like there's a bunch of new programs showing up.
But there's just so much stuff to get distracted by. There is.
Like I just started watching Vikings. We're already on season 5. We've been binge watching it like the past 2 weeks. Not really good binge watching, but watching like 2 episodes a night or something like that. But I think Vikings came out right around the same time Game of Thrones did, or maybe like a year after. So it's like there's a lot of episodes to watch too. And the season 4 was like the first 3 seasons were like 10, 11 episodes each, and then season 4 was 20 episodes.
Yeah, it went into the Walking Dead territory where they just started saying, fuck it. We're going back to old school television way, and we're just going to have 24 episodes in a season.
Just crank it out. But yeah, I could see that. But I also think people might not like this, but I understand why someone would be turned off by politics in sports. Because it's like I got home, maybe I'm working, and then I got to go straight home because there's no bar for me to go to.
And you might have already been talking about this shit at work. Like if you're someone like my mom, I'm not saying my mom is one of these people who's against basketball. She doesn't watch basketball, but it's like, you're dealing with people not wearing masks, people wearing masks, because being a general merchandise or a general manager at a market, like you're literally dealing with the politics all the time. She's always telling me about, oh, this customer did this. I have asthma. I can't do that. Like the Rona, I have a doctor's note. Like everything's political, right? So it's like, yeah, you want to be able to just go home and just not have something political to watch.
Right.
And then, but for us even saying that, we're gonna get shunned or like hated. Well, this is the time when you should be involved, and maybe it should be, but that doesn't mean you have to be. I think that's the big thing. Maybe you're right. Maybe the people are right. Maybe you should. Maybe this is the time to like go out and really just ensure change comes. But
I mean, the flip side to that though is you're getting paid a lot of fucking money to play a kids game. We're getting paid a lot of fucking money.
Never seen no fucking 7'1" kid, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I think Shaq was like 6'9" by the time he was 13. So
okay, well, fucking, how many Shaqs are there out in the world? All right, there's fucking more serial killers than there are Shaqs.
They're all in the NBA, man. They're all in the NBA.
That's the funny part, because they look small on the court amongst each other sometimes, and then like any one of those fucking people, their dick is like in your ears.
It's like Steph Curry. He looks like a little guy, and then he's 6'3".
He's so big.
Yeah.
He would smash my face in, and he looks like a little skinny weenie. Like I'm not talking shit, but I'm just saying. And then like in real life, he would slam dunk me, probably, literally.
He's a big dude. He's a large man. A lot of them are just skinny. But I don't know, man. Like I hate to say I'm tired of it, but it's just like, dude, I just want to play fucking DraftKings and watch basketball.
Honestly,
that's why UFC is doing so well, because there aren't any politics. And even when
Dana goes and talks at the fucking RNC today,
he's talking on the RNC.
Matter. Yep, he's a guest speaker. When people use the word conservative and then they say that Dana White's a conservative, I'm like, that word conservative does not mean what you think it means. Like the actual definition of conservative is not Dana White. It is not Dana White whatsoever. The guy cannot fucking put a sentence together without dropping an F-bomb like every other word.
Either.
Right.
But you don't call yourself conservative.
Well, also if you're gambling like $5-10 million a night, that's not exactly conservative either. They're doing well. UFC's doing well. Their ratings are just through the roof.
I just think it shows that individual sports are easier to pull off than team sports during this whole thing, and there's also.
But NFL's coming. Football's coming back. Like,
oh yeah. Look,
people think it's gonna stop when the basketball season's over. Like, you have another thing coming. It's because everybody has come full circle or a 180 on this whole situation with Colin Kaepernick. People are going to be kneeling now. What's gonna happen there? You watch football. You tell me. You tell me what's gonna happen during the.
Oh, they just don't show the national anthem.
Like they used to not do.
Like they used to not do until the military paid for it.
And it's so stupid because you don't see the national anthem for baseball games unless it's the World Series, because you have like fucking Steven Tyler singing it or some shit,
Right.
I don't need to see that. But it's me. You know me. I fucking sit like every time they're like, "Oh, please stand and like take off your hats and whatever." I'm just sitting eating my hot dog at the baseball game.
And you know what? That's a great segue to what I want to bring up next. And that is Kimberly Guilfoyle's controversial speech on day one of the RNC, where I didn't watch it, but I know a lot of people said she came off like a crazy person, but that doesn't seem to be the biggest criticism. The biggest criticism of her speech, and this is something that I actually got offended by and took personally, was that she called her mom an immigrant. Her mom is Puerto Rican. And the only thing that I saw on Twitter yesterday, left and right, was that Puerto Ricans are not immigrants because they're U.S. citizens. That's the only thing people took from her speech, regardless of what it says. That's what they're roasting it for. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, go and tell my mom she's not an immigrant. and go and invalidate my mom's experience here in the U.S. and every other Puerto Rican that has gone through a different experience, because it's not black and white.
But what's your take? What do you mean? Like,
I just say like you are losing.
And who's saying this stuff, by the way? Who's
liberals, Democrats. That's what they're, instead of like taking what she said in the speech and using the ridiculous shit she said against you, that's what they're harping on. That one thing where she said she called her mom an immigrant. And they're trying to, like, even AOC is trying to flip it to like, well, this is the problem, that no matter, and it's something we've talked about, that no matter how American you think you are, society will never accept you as an American because you're brown or Latinos. Latinos are never ever seen as American citizens. And I get what she's saying with that, and I agree with that, but that's not why people are roasting this woman. They're roasting her because they're acting as if she didn't know that Puerto Ricans are citizens. Therefore, it makes her mom not an immigrant, regardless of the experiences she's gone through, regardless of the people, regardless of my friend Tanya that you've met before. We've had her on the podcast before a long time ago when we first started. She couldn't buy a fucking beer at the grocery store in Santa Barbara because she had a Puerto Rico ID. Because the person at the store asked for her passport because they couldn't accept foreign IDs.
Bro, I've been in arguments with people at the fair and had to come, like, have them bring security because they wouldn't accept a passport as a form of ID. And it's just people, like, literally,
right?
Because the passport is not the California ID, and I'm like, no, bring your supervisor, because it's unacceptable. Yeah, it's so stupid, because that you don't run into that in other countries. You go to fucking Italy and you present I'm not Puerto Rican, but a foreign passport of any kind for ID, they're gonna accept it. They're gonna look at it and they're gonna know, right?
I mean, fucking 99 times out of 100, they're not gonna ask you for ID at all over there. I mean, they actually had chip technology like 10 years before. Chip technology is old over there, where over here it's like started 3 years ago.
At what point though? And this has been a reoccurring theme that I've been saying this whole podcast. At what point though do you kind of just let things go? Like, and what I mean by that is, does it really matter if society accepts you or not? Wouldn't it be better for society if people stopped giving a fuck about what society thinks and people just started to be more independent thinkers about themselves? And if I look at myself as an American and not Mexican, what's really wrong with that? Because
nothing's wrong with that.
There's plenty of people out there who do identify as being Mexican and who are second, third generation, whatever, and they very closely identify with that, or maybe they're fourth generation and they're Latinx and they're like more connected to culture than I am, you know. But I don't think Latinx ever existed in the 1950s, you know. But if people want to fuck with that shit now, cool. But why does it really matter? That's my whole thing. Like, what AOC, if AOC said that, that's my response. Why does that really matter? Because at some point, it needs to not matter. All of her goals and objectives to try to pass this law or this new deal about this, and the end goal is to just never have that matter, right?
Well, that is the end goal. But the problem is that it still matters to people, and it's still like you're still invalidating people. People are still getting discriminated against. People are not getting accepted when all they want to what it really comes down to is a lot of people just want to fucking go to work, make their money, go home, eat dinner, watch TV, and there are forces out there, there are people out there in this country that are not letting them have that normal life.
Let me ask you a question based on what you just said, right? And because, like, how much of the population would you feel is like that? Like, if you put a percentage number on it, half?
Half what? Half the population gets discriminated against?
Yeah, like, what do you think that's like? How many people are affected by it? Like, do you feel like on a realistic, not like just what do you feel like that's on a daily basis? Like,
I mean, depends on what part of the country you're in. You know, it depends on the degree. The other problem with the whole thing is, you know, one person might say something that they didn't mean to be offensive or thought was offensive, but the other person took it as offensive, you know? There's always like, there's different perspectives on everything. And I see that shit happen all the time. Like people, when you see someone get upset at the store because they feel like the clerk had an attitude with them, and it's like the clerk wasn't even thinking about what that person said to him. They were just like kind of
just
on,
me talking to people
autopilot.
sometimes.
Right.
How many people do you feel like actually try their best to obtain their goals, and they do everything in their power? So because that's a conservative mind point, like that viewpoint, you know, you pick yourself up by the bootstraps and you work hard and you'll achieve things, right? How many people do you feel like genuinely really go all out and try every single avenue and then feel like, you know what, I've done every single thing I could possibly do, and you know what, maybe the fact that my skin color is brown is a big factor? Or how many people do you feel like just maybe got called a fucking wetback one time and they're like, man, this society's fucked up. Like I can't, like it's, or they just see other people getting affected by it, but they've never once experienced it themselves. Like, you know what I mean? It
right.
Because I think about myself.
Man.
I think about myself. I've been thinking about this lately to tie it back to me instead of preaching about other people. And I've been thinking, okay, how much do like when you read about, because I started reading like Oliver Stone's autobiography and just about how he was writing, and then you kind of get this pattern with a lot of people, right? When they're early filmmakers, they're writing scripts, they're doing whatever,
right?
And you think about, I think about myself, and it's like, oh, I have all of these ideas, but they're not on the page, and they teach you that in film school. If it's not on the page, it doesn't exist, and if you don't film it, it might as well not exist either, and da 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 da. And I think, well, how many times have I actually written the script, try to cold call people, try to email people, try to get it into people's hands, and try to like do that hustle, right?
Right.
How many times do you feel like people actually go out and really explore all the avenues?
I get what you're saying, but I think what you're talking about is like survival versus like chasing your dreams or whatever.
I just say I feel like it's been easier for me to be Hispanic sometimes. Like getting accepted to film school, I fucking 100% feel like if I was white, I might not have been accepted. I really feel that way.
Hey, that might be the case, but I feel like, you know, when anybody says something like that, I always counter with, you know, okay, well, what about the kids in our class whose parents are in the industry, working in the industry, that help them get in as well? You know, everybody's got somebody else helping them out. Who was in there 150% purely on talent and not because of some other means? There was no one there.
But do you throw your hands up in the air and call for revolt, or do you fucking really try your best to go around that and say, fuck you, like I'm gonna try my best to go around, I'm gonna try to get my film into film festivals? But
honestly, what the answer I think to your question is like, you got to go as hard as you can until life gets in the way. You know what I'm saying? You have to do whatever you can until life gets in the way. And then when life gets in the way, you got to figure out, am I still going to pursue this, or do I have to deal with life now? And by life I mean being an adult. And by being an adult, I mean, paying rent and having to put your own food on your table.
I guess how it related, because the reason why I brought it up, because it does relate to the whole immigrant and non-immigrant thing, and the reason why it connects to me is, you know, I'm not an immigrant. I'm not.
No.
I was born from a lineage of immigrants, but I can identify as one if I so choose.
Right.
Because I could say, well, part of my lineage is new here from Mexico, right? I don't know that. I have a 21 in me, or whatever it's called, 23 in me.
You find out your whole family's from Bakersfield. Got like 1,000 years of fucking...
And I could be a fucking Indio, a real one. And that's what, and you know, and it is what it is. But it's like, what does having that why take that from someone? Like you said, why even bother to take that from someone? Or like, does it really matter? Because at the end of the day, it's about working hard and fucking doing your best. And I feel like a lot of people don't aren't doing their best at all times. I think
no,
because I'm not.
I'm one of them. I'm not either.
So, and I just feel like people aren't honest enough about it. Like, I'm not saying lives are easy. I'm not saying it's fucking easy to work 2 jobs, but I think you could absolutely fucking do it if you really could, you really set your mind to it.
Here's my answer to that. The people that work super hard and are super successful because they work super hard are not working hard. And why are they not working hard? Because they're doing something they enjoy, something that they love.
And they're paying other people to do the hard work because they made enough money.
Exactly. And I think that's what differentiates stuff. This whole thing that so-and-so's a billionaire because, he worked hard. Like, I have yet to find that person. There's always a backstory behind it. And you see what the have and the have-nots have. It's very, and I'm not saying it's impossible. There's obviously going to be
Jeff
that
Bezos,
one person.
He's an exception to the rule.
Is he an exception to the rule? Because I'm pretty sure his fucking wife that owns half of Amazon now bankrolled him until Amazon became fucking popular.
But he was not born he was not born with the golden spoon in his mouth, is my point.
Fair enough, but I mean, like I said, there's levels to this.
Hey, bro, you don't know what set her off to say, I'm gonna give you all my money.
I'm just saying he married someone that had money. That's the thing.
There ain't nothing wrong with that.
Point, hey, it is what it is. But like I said, that something happened for him to get to where he is now. And
I do that right now.
But that's the backstory. That's the backstory that I'm talking about. It wasn't some kid that was shining shoes at the fucking subway station, and he shined so many fucking shoes that he was able to save enough money so that he could pay for this invention that turned him into a fucking, a 25% shareholder of the entire planet Earth. That's.
But how many people want to be that? How many people want to take over the world?
That's the other part too, man.
Like, how many people? Because that's the thing. If that's your goal, I really do feel like you could have a very successful shoe shining business with YouTube, with all these things. Because people have it for woodworking and fucking like basic random ass shit that you're just like, why would anyone spend hours upon hours of like people building computers and talking about computers and fucking doing anything that people watch? Why would you watch someone else cook? You can't eat the food that they're cooking. Like,
right.
Why do you want to watch them eat in a restaurant that you're not at and you're on your fucking couch, like, eating potato chips and shit?
Catharsis.
But people do it, though. So I'm just saying, like, we live in a world where you can do so much that you probably could not have 100+ years ago.
Well, I think people get angsty because they got to the point where they were comfortable doing whatever they wanted to after they went to work, and now that's being taken away from them from just the cost of living keeps going up and your salary isn't. And your salary isn't going up because there's a small group of people at the very top who need to make their fucking, it's like I said way earlier in the podcast, very few people with too much control are worried about their profit margins. And that's affecting the majority of the people underneath them.
Well, it's hard to put a foundation. It's hard to say that that's a bad thing, though, in my opinion. Because who's the one who regulates that? Who determines what the regulating numbers are? I mean, I'm not saying that it should just be, fucking free open market, but
I mean,
it can be a slippery slope.
All this shit does is just poke holes in everyone's fucking political philosophy. That's all. There's no perfect form of government. If you were to leave it to the libertarians, they think that fucking human beings will be good enough to help other humans when they see them in need. And
they're the ones who've been saying defund the police for a long time.
Right. I mean, you got Eamon Bundy coming out in support of Black Lives Matter a couple weeks ago. Like, that in itself is insanity. Now the guy's no longer a white supremacist. And maybe he never was, but because he was a white guy with guns taking down federal buildings or trying to take down federal buildings.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But you know what there is something wrong with, though? And we've talked about this a million times, but I experienced it so often this last trip that we have to talk about it yet again. And that is Portland looks disgusting. And Seattle is also in the same fashion. And it's mostly because of fucking homeless people. Also, our own city right now looks disgusting because of the countless fucking encampments and things like that. And literally, it was to the point where in Seattle specifically, my mom was like just walking to the pier, which was empty because there was no one around. She was getting called fucking ugly, like literally to the face because of homeless people. Like they're just out of their fucking mind. We had like 6 or 7 encounters. Some dude wanted to fuck me up. Like you can't even go about your life. Literally, you see people fucking with needles in their arms, like fucking shooting up, needles everywhere. Like that. It's just fucking. I don't know. We were driving down the road in like some remote area on some Indian reservation in Oregon, and nice spot. We pulled over. Let's fish there, and we threw our rods in, our reels, our lines in. We were there for I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And horses came down across the river, wild horses, and they started drinking out of the river. It was great. And then this guy comes out of nowhere. Mind you, we're literally in the remote part of Oregon. And he had a mask on, Harley Davidson shirt on. He's like, "Would you mind if I smoke a cigarette right here? It's a nice night, blah, blah, blah." Well, within fucking a minute of that, he revealed himself to be a homeless fucking guy, and he proceeded to, he was berating everybody that was there, me, my mom, like all of us, and we had to leave because we're in the middle of nowhere. I texted you going to Berkeley, and the freeway was littered with tents and it's just these are all these liberal places where this is happening, and I know it's happening everywhere, all over, but it's just how do people find this to be acceptable? I was genuinely getting mad. I always get mad at the fucking churches. I really do every time. I always go back to the churches with this shit because how many fucking churches build real shelters for these people? They're the ones who should be housing them, right? But it's just I'm walking through Seattle and I feel like I'm in The Last of Us 2. People literally shouting at the top of their lungs, fuck me, eat my pussy, bitch. Literally, I swear to God, I heard all these things this last week. They were funny. I should have recorded them because this is the shit I watch on YouTube. But it's just fucked up though. That's why I don't. I don't. Because it's I don't fucking know it's just I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to do. We always say this shit, but it's just living in the city desensitized me to the point where it's it's hard for me to see the humanity in it anymore because it's just so it's I don't blame them. I blame our fucking city of not being able to figure out a solution for this problem. Whether that's because they're not taking it seriously or whatever the fuck. Mm-hmm. If you want to defund the police, you want to take away $75 million out of the police budget, that money should be going towards fucking home because it's a serious eyesore. I don't want to be able to I don't want to walk the streets of my own city and feel uncomfortable. And I do. I don't walk by black people and grab my purse, but I definitely do that around fucking homeless people. They fucking make me have to feel like I need to be tense because you just don't know what the fuck's going to happen. And if you're listening to this, not you, but people out there are listening to this and they think I'm overreacting, I'm over whatever, I guarantee you've never been in the streets and walked around with homeless people before. Or you've never fucking had an encounter with a homeless person where it made you feel uncomfortable. Because the moment you have them...
I mean, it probably means you've never even been in the vicinity of this amount of homeless people. That one bum that hangs out behind McDonald's in your small podunk town versus a whole village of fucking homeless people with tents popped up everywhere underneath the freeway pass. We're not talking 3 or 4. We're talking fucking hundreds and thousands.
Literally can't even walk. Sometimes you have to walk in the street to walk around on the curb because you can't even walk on the fucking sidewalk.
There are parts of LA where you have to have your head on a swivel while driving down the street because at any point you could run somebody over because there's that many people just walking across the street, in and out, hanging out in the middle of the street. It's messed up, man. And somebody told me, and I can't verify it, so take this with a grain of salt, but somebody told me that Portland instituted a program a few years ago that basically paid homeless people $15 an hour. And they also passed a thing where if somebody was what's that called when you're living on somebody's property with not vagrant, but it's
a sitter. No, what is it called?
Sitting. Someone could sit on your land, be it on the corner of your land, and you could not kick them out. They were protected by the government. So homeless,
unless you gave them a spot to kick them out too. I think that's what it was. Something like that.
Is that what it was? But either way, you got people that have their have a house and some homeless guys like lives in their backyard and they can't get rid of them. It doesn't matter like the shit that they do, like the trash they bring out, nothing. You can't do anything about it. And it's like very like something extreme that's done in Portland. It's not even in the state, the entire state. It's like specifically for Portland and the county that it's in.
Portland,
which is why you see that amount of homeless. And then I don't know what's going on. Like I think a couple years ago, I know in LA they passed like a $50 million thing where they were like trying to help homeless people, and it's, you know, you're just pretty much giving them money to go and fucking do dope and
that's the
else.
thing. It's like there's no real solution, and that's why I say it needs to respond. This response needs to come upon the churches. You want to have your tax-free exemption? Fine.
No, we need to dig up Ronald Reagan's fucking corpse and fucking let him know that it's his fucking fault.
I genuinely think it's a problem. I really do. I'm not saying
it's a health problem. It's a health problem. It's an eyesore. It's a safety problem. It's definitely an issue. Nobody wants to live around that, and I feel like it doesn't.
And no
matter
one wants to be homeless.
Right.
No one wants to be able to put in that situation.
Right. Which I think like
people are being incentivized to be homeless right now. I've told you a fucking story where I was filming in downtown LA, or in Hollywood, I should say, and we were filming with Ari Spears. We were filming Ari Spears and Paul Rodriguez and and with real homeless people. And Aries said something to the effect of like, "Y'all niggas living in the street, but you have an iPhone. You guys are blowing my mind." Like he was cracking jokes. The homeless people were like laughing, blah blah blah. But they explained to Aries that like during the day we collapse our tents. We leave them right here. The city doesn't take them down. We leave them right here. We go out into the Hollywood Boulevard. We hustle, do our thing, whatever. Because they were musicians. They were playing their like saxophone, and then we just come back here at night and we just chill out, and that's it. And that's what we have. That they get to keep all that money. They're off the books. They get to do whatever they want to do. They literally had like the new iPhone, so it wasn't like they had some Obama like flip phone or some shit. Somehow they got power. I don't know, through like juice boxes or whatever. And like they were completely fine with that.
But are those the people fucking like standing in the middle of the street screaming at the moon?
No, it's not. Absolutely not. I'm just saying there's a wide variety of these things, but most of them aren't that kid. Aren't those children doing that? Maybe in Berkeley they are, you know, or maybe in Portland they are. But it's just like, regardless, it's still kind of just.
I mean, maybe it's just for the story. I don't know. I want to talk about it real quick. Do you know Bella Thorne? Are you familiar with Bella Thorne?
Yeah, I was. I think I worked on a music video with her actually, or I was going to, or something. I think I did. One of her music. Austin worked with her on a music video, and I was color correcting it, or I was going to. I don't remember. It was really a long time ago, but yes.
So she was I think she was a child actor, or she was a teenage actor. I'm not sure exactly. I think she did Disney TV shows. And then she did a few like teeny like Twilight type ripoffs kind of films as well. Not sure exactly, but she a couple years ago her iCloud got hacked, or maybe it was last year. And people put out, you know, these tabloids put out her naked pictures that she was sending people. And instead of her like trying to get them taken down, she said, "You know what? You guys want to play that game?" And then she just fucking released all of them on her own. Here, everybody can look at them for free. Fuck you guys. And then after that, she started directing porn. Like she directed a porn or two, like female positive porn or whatever. And I guess yesterday or a couple of days ago, she decided to start an OnlyFans. And the reason why I bring it up is
to salute and commend her, I hope, because good for her.
She made $2 million in a couple of days, or in 24 hours.
Good
or in
for
a week,
her.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's my comment and response. Good for her. I am one for there's no reason why that should be shunned, no reason why it shouldn't be a business model for other things and legalization for even further things like that. It's 100% a part of being a human being, and if it's regulated and people are held to safety standards and shit like that, go for it. Obviously that's not what she's doing, but I'm just saying, like, to go as far as prostitution, all that shit. Just be able to do what you want to do. I don't know the girl's name. This is just what appeared on Reddit. It was a clip that I saw on Reddit, and then like it's true. So this chick, Instagram star or Instagram model, whatever, apparently sucked up almost the entire Phoenix Suns team, 7 of them, like
nice
at the same time, and she told this story on this podcast. And
she fit 7 dicks in her mouth.
I'm once. Look, if I had screen sharing mode,
hot dogs in her mouth,
bratwurst or something. Yeah, and so within hours of her releasing this story on the thing, she herself made almost $750,000 because of this. And so yeah, I mean, again, she didn't like give names out or whatever, but it was told her story about how she had already been hooking up with the team before, blah 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 blah. Like it was a reoccurring thing. She already was hooking up with these people, and then
the things that people are interested in.
She probably was one of those Corona bubble girls that you were talking about.
The ones the NBA should have hired.
The one that, I mean, they could only allow one in apparently, so the whole team just took her to town. I guess they couldn't allow too many in at a time.
And that's how we're gonna wrap this podcast up, guys. 7 dicks, 1 mouth. Anyways,
7 dicks.
Well, I've only had sex with 2 people. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. You know the drill. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Leave a... God damn it. Ring the bell. Ring the bell if you already are. And we will see you.
And if you're on iTunes, you can leave us a review and, you know...
Leave a 5-star review, guys. Let's make this podcast as successful as it should be.
5-star review and then say really bad things.
And we promise we're going to work harder.
Just like Jeff Bezos. To put family on your food. Or what did President Bush?
Family on your food?
Put food on your family. I think he said that. We're working hard to put food on your family.
He had too many of those like little Japanese girls with sushi on top of them parties, you know.
And when he's a frat boy. All right. Yeah. That's a wrap.
We'll see you next time.
If you like this video, make sure to check out the video up on the screen.